Balenciaga.
Balenciaga. There we go.
Man,
How you
I'm
doing?
good, bro.
That's good to hear. Thank you for joining me for this interview. I know we'll be trying to get this interview for about a week or two now, and it's like you call me, I'm not around. I call you, you're not around, and finally we managed to get this interview to happen. So, thank you for joining me for this interview.
No problem, bro. Thank you for having me.
All right, we got plenty to get into, so let's go ahead and get started. What made you decide to be a hip hop artist?
Well, first and foremost, I was a fan of hip hop. You know, growing up in the era of like the '90s, kind of had like some of the best years of rap. So I was definitely a fan. I definitely studied it. I used it to get through my days. You know, it was kind of hard coming up as a youth, but I was a fan before anything, man. And then you know, after that, you know, as a fan, like you want to try and do it. It's like, you know, anybody who likes the NFL or the NBA, you know, they love the sport and they also go out and they, you know, they play pickup games or whatever, and you know, it's just kind of like that, man. You just start out as a fan.
Who do you consider as influences in your career?
My biggest influences on my career, I, as far as rappers, I've been influenced by Jay-Z and Nas. Songwriters and you know, a way to, you know, make music that can live beyond or you know, that time period or that's very forward and that can last the test of, or stand the test of time. I love Barry Manilow. I love Kurt Cobain, you know, from a songwriting standpoint.
That's interesting, Barry Manilow. I mean, that came out of nowhere. But I guess overall, it's just like it's music. People are gonna have a variety of range of influences and sounds and things like that. I respect Barry Manilow too. I mean, he's had some hit records throughout his career, things like that. But I guess you never know what a sound how sound is for an artist. What's gonna make them get into music these days? I guess.
It's very true. I'm definitely a hip hop fan, but I'm a fan of music, man, and I understand that you can't just stick within your genre to be able to create, you know, amazing music. You have to know different forms of music, different eras of music. You also have to do your research, man. I mean, if we in this, we in it, you know. We gotta know what's going on, you know.
So recently, you released your latest record, Made and Crafted. It's available for free download. What was the process like working on that record?
Oh man, it was definitely a longer process than I've ever done, you know, for any other previous project that I've done. I linked up with Tiffany J of Family Tree Entertainment. She took a liking to my music, and then we definitely chopped it up, and we talked about doing a project. And you know, with her expertise and really understanding this industry and her longevity in the industry, she understood, like, you know, what it could take for me to create a project that would, you know, succeed everything that I've done previous to now. So between like working with the producers and placing tracks for me, you know, for the tape and placing production, it was a very, very long process, but it was an awesome process because the tape it sounds amazing. It sounds, you know, nothing like this out. And, you know, and it definitely, the concept and everything, it all came together and it was delivered perfectly. You know, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was definitely a process. and I'm definitely happy with the end result.
So, is for this record, is there any songs particular that you're gonna be promoting or pushing as a single, and if so, is there gonna
Well,
be a music
yeah,
video?
yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we the first record we released off the tape about 2 months ago was Drinking Clap, featuring Breezy Bernanke. It was produced by Matt Carr. It's a sample from Dean Martin, Mambo Italiano. So that was one of the main records that we released. And then we also second release of a record called Cool Again, which was written by John Cyrus, Andrew Boss, and Adriana Cole. Adriana Cole was featured on the record. She's doing the hook, and John and Andrew produced the beat. So that was like the first two looks from the tape that we went with.
Uh, Other than the record and everything, anything else you have in the works as far as promoting the record, or are you gonna be having some
Yeah.
performances, anything like that?
Actually, I did a performance on in Miami on October 18th, the day before the mixtape dropped. I had the actual the album release party, so that was a definitely good look. It was a nice turnout. A lot of people got their CDs and their copies are made and crafted. The next look we looking at is a record called Made It, produced by Steve Lawrence of Banger Boys. Um, that's pretty. That's a pretty big record that's resonating with the people a lot. As far as promotion, man, it's free download, man. It's online. Like first week went well. First week went well as far as downloads and plays and stuff. So like I just want people to hear music. Like if you like hip hop, if you're a fan of really good music, doesn't matter what genre that you prefer, and you sit down and you listen front to back, it's gonna take you somewhere. It's gonna take you somewhere. It's a journey, told by a poet.
What I find very interesting is artists' meanings behind the name of an album, the name of a mixtape, the name of the EP, particular. What made you decide to name the record "Made and Crafted"?
Um, it was some back and forth with Tiffany on the name. So we definitely Made and Crafted is it just speaks to me as an artist, and I don't mean it as just a hip hop artist or a musician. I mean it as a designer and also as a musician and as a very creative person. So when I say made and crafted, like I mean like when you self made, and I don't mean self made in a mob esque or rapper esque way. I meant like when you come from upbringing that doesn't really it doesn't really allow you to succeed, and you just go break down those barriers and you get through those speed bumps, and then you come up and then you actually make it into a field like fashion, which is not particularly kind to everybody. And you definitely have to have an ability to play on this level, like especially working for Perry Ellis, which is a top 5 manufacturer in this country, and owns a bunch of brands and a bunch of licensees all across the world. So I feel like I made myself in that way, and crafted is just what I do. I design clothes full time. I write and record music full time for the last 3.5 years, and I've just been blessed to be able to have a unique skill set to be able to do both and do both pretty well. So it's made and crafted.
Considering that you are a fashion designer, obviously hip hop fashion has obviously changed throughout the years. I mean, I guess back in the 90s, people would be wearing the jerseys and the throwbacks and things like that. And
Uh-huh.
now in the 2000s, it's like people are a little bit more dressed up, trying to separate themselves from everyone else. You being a hip hop artist and a fashion designer, how do you feel about the fashion aspect of hip hop these days?
I love the fashion aspect of hip hop because if you could remember, it was a certain point in time in hip hop that hip hop only allowed a certain look. You know what I mean? So, like, and you just mentioned the '90s, so it was a certain type of look. It was a certain type of fit that people wore, which was the oversized look and things of that nature. And then, when it got in, even in the 2000s, it was like that. It started becoming like towards the end of the 2000s where, people started evolving style wise. I think it was just a change in mentality across the board. You know what I mean? Because when you think about fashion, hip hop definitely affects fashion, and it affects trend in a major way. And I'm just speaking from a fashion industry perspective. What happened was that whole push and that whole transformation of style, the European style with the more fitted clothes, the more, uh, eccentric looks and things like that allow everybody to be individuals, especially in this country. In Europe and in Asia, they've been, individualizers in their style, like individuals in their style. It just took so long for America to really catch on. So I appreciate everybody's individual style. I mean, I know I have mine, and it may not be something that's quote unquote hip hop, but it's my style.
Do you think the reason that the fashion has changed is maybe because maybe hip hop artists want to be taken a bit more seriously as far as endorsements, sponsorships, or any other opportunity that's out there for them to get?
Well, I definitely, I'm definitely a firm believer in, presentation means everything. So, and when you look for endorsements and you look, and you try to be marketable and you want to appease just, these corporations and these big companies that's looking to sponsor you as an artist because of your fan base, you definitely have to present yourself in a more worldly manner, in a more across the board manner, because hip hop does have a stigma. It has a stereotype, and like I wouldn't say that people are doing it to appease advertisers. I would say that people, they just understand their brand. You know what I mean? Like you have to understand what you're putting out there, and you have to understand what this music is about, because not only, this is across the board. Everybody loves hip hop in every country. So, for us in our mind to even be caved in, like, oh, I'm just doing this because of that. I don't think it's fair to judge people in that sense. But I mean, you do have to appease and have to make yourself marketable. So, not to say that I agree with everything, and certain things feel gimmicky, and certain things feel organic, and that's just kind of the way it is, I guess.
Hip hop has been buzzing over the last couple of weeks, courtesy of the Kendrick Lamar verse in Control. You got people, especially in the New York area, offended with the King of New York line. And then he mentioned all them other rappers' names. And, I guess he brought it back to the competitive element, because that's how hip hop first started. Like, everyone wants to strive to be the best. You being an artist and a fan, what was your reaction when you first heard the verse?
Honestly, like I wasn't shocked. I mean, I heard about it before I even listened to it, and when I listened to it, I was just like, he's saying pretty much he's saying the shit that everybody says. It just depending on where you say it and who you say it around. He just happened to have a huge platform, and he said everything that every rapper thinks. So I appreciate it, man. Like I'm not like I'm not looking into it like, oh, he came at this or he said he was like he was rapping, to be honest with you, and he was saying the same thing that everybody else said. He just said it and made had a more he sparked a little bit of emotions out of a lot of people, man. So I think that was good for him, man. And I don't think it's anything new. I don't think he just ground broke or said anything that's out of the ordinary. It's always been said what he said, and he just said it on a bigger platform.
And as I dug deep into the lyrics, I mean, there was a couple of rappers that say, well, he kind of got that King of New York line from Corrupt. He said he was the King of New York on a collaboration with the Dog Pound Gang. And obviously he's from the West Coast, Corrupt's from the West Coast. And, I mean, regardless if he got that line for someone else or not, I mean, he said it, and he pretty much set a target for himself, I guess. I mean, I feel like
but not to cut you off, but who's really going to target him? Because 93% of rappers that's major, they can't fuck with him. Excuse my language. Like they
okay.
can't lyrically, they ain't doing nothing with him.
No.
So, I mean, when you at his point and at his level, as far as with his lyrics, take away from all the fame and all of that, like when you talk about the bare bones of rap and hip hop, none of them artists can touch him. So he can say what he wants. I mean, that whole comparing it to Corrupt and all of that, I mean, it was probably in his mind to say that. And I'm pretty sure he was inspired to say that because of Corrupt. But like, let's be honest, like really, which rapper is really can really come at him or really can jab with him or spar with him when it comes down to bars? Not many. So, I mean, like, and he know that. That's why he said it. You know what I'm saying? Like, period. And you have to feel like that. And if it's going to bring, like, if that sparked the brain to bring it back to the competition, bring it to the competition. But don't regurgitate what he said by calling out people names. And because then it gets watered down. It's like, okay, he called names. He put everybody on notice to step your game up, period. But don't do it the same way he did, because I heard a couple tracks from rappers and they like calling out names and all of this. Like, that's not even like what it's about. You could still spit on that level and then, like talk about what you need to talk about if you feel like it's a competition or if you good. Why don't you put out my challenge to rappers is put out a project that says that. Don't hop on the beat, the control beat. Don't hop on any one of his beats. Don't do none of that. Put out a tape. Put out an album that responds to what he said. If you feel like you that good or you feeling some way that you didn't get mentioned, put out a project, something that we can listen to forever. You know what I mean? Like, it gets corny and watered down to me. Like when rappers start, they just talking about it or want to hop on and do tracks and all. Put out a project. Like put something out. Like put something out that had a lot of thought into it. Because if everybody else thought like that and everybody started bringing it like that, then the game would change. You know what I mean? Like, but just hopping on and do a freestyle because it's the hot thing to do or it's the search engine optimism thing to do. That's weak, man. That's weak.
I definitely understand where you're coming from, and considering the resume that he has, I mean, he has a platinum album, he's got 3 hit singles, and he's up for 14 BET Hip Hop Awards. He's definitely put the game on notice, and I feel like, good for him. Hip hop, you have to be courageous. You have to have that confidence. You have to believe in what you're saying, because if you don't believe in what you're saying, then your fans and your peers ain't gonna believe in you. So he
Right.
so he struck a nerve with people. But I mean, like you said, if people have a quote unquote problem with it, do better, be lyrically
Right.
better, come up with some
Put out
records.
great music, like, don't talk about it. Don't talk about him. No, don't get jealous, or don't feel envious. I mean, put out a great project. That's my challenge. Like, that's, like, put out something that people can really sink their teeth into. You know what I mean? Because he definitely did. He did. That's why he got that platform. That's why he got the right to say what he said. Because the lane he chose, it was that that hip hop, the origin hip hop way. Like, he's a lyricist. He's not a gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, he's an artist. Like, he's a rapper. He's a really, really good rapper. And that's just what it is. If that changes the game, then good for everybody else, man.
Again, you can get the man's project Made and Crafted is a free download. Where can people go download the record?
You could definitely go to Live Mixtapes. You can go to SoundCloud.com/Balenciaga Banks. You can go on Spinnerella, search Balenciaga Banks, man. I mean, I would advise people to just Google Balenciaga Banks Made and Crafted, and then you'll get a lot of options on where you where you choose to download your music from. But it's definitely distributed across the board on a lot of sites. So just Google Balenciaga Banks Made and Crafted.
And why don't you go ahead and promote your social media links before we end this interview? Let people know how they can get in touch with you.
Oh, okay. Hit me up on Twitter at Balenciaga Banks. Hit me up on the feed, Balenciaga Banks. SoundCloud, Balenciaga Banks. It's Balenciaga Banks everything. Balenciaga Banks Facebook. I know people don't know how to spell it or pronounce it, but it's BALENCIAGABANKS. Balenciaga.
And congratulations on the record. Best of success goes out to you. Thank you for joining me for this interview. Shout out to Tiffany.
Appreciate it, Ken.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, go download the mixtape Made and Crafted right now. All the links he mentioned, go download it. Support hip-hop. Support underground hip-hop. Just thank you, everyone, for listening. This will conclude the interview.